All right. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Cubers. It's Chill MTG. We are back with the Vintage Cube, new season, June 2022. The Cube is with us all month, and we have opened a Black Lotus in Pick 1, Pack 1. Ding, ding. Got the power. Super stoked. Have no idea what we're going to draft here, but love opening with a Lotus. All right. Pack 2. Couple decisions. What do we want to do? There's a natural order in here. Black Lotus usually always goes great with like mono white or mono red, but I want to draft something spicy, do something fun. And, if we're here to win, I'd probably pick like Hellrider or something. I don't know. This pack seems pretty weak. Natural order is a great green card as well, but I really don't want Lotus with green. Other cards we could look at, we could just, take another land like a Breeding Pool or a Ketria Triome. And then there's also the Force and Negation. But, I haven't played with these Triomes very often. So I think maybe we take this Forest Island Mountain and just really stay open to see what comes around in some follow-on packs. So let's take this beautiful full art Triome and see what's in pack 3. All right, there's a Grief and a Force of Will. There's also a Sylvan Library. So one thing with Lotus that you have to really watch out for, technically Lotus is card disadvantage. It's huge tempo advantage, but it's definite card disadvantage. So a card like Sylvan Library could help make up for that. We did just pick up that Ketria Triome, which is a forest as well. The other strong cards in this pack, I think, are Grief and then Force of Will if we just want to go control-y. But I don't draft blue a lot. Let's pick up the Sylvan Library and just see what else we can get here. And so if we're going to do this green, blue, red, what's in this pack? There's a Courser, Leovold. We don't have black yet, and there's a Garruk. I'm not really interested in Splinter Twins, especially after just picking up a Sylvan Library. So I'm kind of just looking at this Garruk and the Courser. So Garruk's good. It can make creatures, can untap lands, and so it may fit in the deck pretty well. Ooh, there's a sweet Old Border Exploration original art. That's beautiful. I don't think we'll be taking it here. What else could we look at? There's an Acidic Slime, Firebolt if we want to get some removal, and a Huntmaster. I think the Firebolt, even though it's sorcery speed, it's just a single mana and we can flash it back. We just kind of want to see, there's not really any strong other green cards in here that's going to, go above a Firebolt potentially. All right, here next pack we have an Elvish Mystic, an Incinerate, and a Woodfall Primus. I'm not looking to do the green ramp thing. Definitely not looking to do like mono ramp. So probably not Primus, but Incinerate's another great removal spell. I'm happy to play green red. And ooh, hey, there's Tamiyo Compleated Sage. I've been really happy with that card. Other strong cards in here, we have Gilded Drake, Scavenging Ooze, and Llanowar, but I think Tamiyo is just kind of a great planeswalker. It can really top down, a problematic creature or a problematic artifact, and it's pretty flexible in casting it for 4 or 5 mana value. And Tireless Tracker, another great one. Other option is Ignoble Hierarch, as it does tap for red as well, but I do like the Tireless Tracker. Okay, here, Secure Tribe Elder, Hex Drinker. I think we just got to take the Hex Drinker, right? Like, Hex Drinker can just end the game on its own. The play pattern is not super fun. Hex Drinker's play pattern is very non-interactive. You basically have to answer it immediately, otherwise it'll just go to, protection from everything. So not the most fun or interactive card to play with, but when we're in the powered Vintage Cube, you have to take some of the broken stuff. Escape to the Wilds. There's that Hellrider that came back and an Elvish Reclaimer. Don't think we're the lands deck, which is where Elvish Reclaimer fits real well. And I don't think we're a Goblin Bombardment deck. Let's get this Escape to the Wilds. Again, try to mitigate some of that card disadvantage. Here's a Garruk we can pick up. Garruk's not the strongest planeswalker, so don't know if he'll make the deck, but happy to pick him up. Oh, that Courser Wield. That's super awesome. There's also a Char, but we already have 2 removal spells and with Incinerate and Firebolt, so Courser fit right in. Acidic Slime did wheel as well. Pretty sweet. There's also a Huntmaster. Acidic Slime solves a few more problems than what Huntmaster solves, I think. So we'll pick up the Acidic Slime. May just be a sideboard card. All right, Maelstrom Pulse for the board. And ooh, Aura Shards. Interesting. Pack 2. What do we want to pick up? There's Nissa. There's a lot of great cards in here for us. Birds of Paradise, Nissa, Stomping Ground, Abrade. I really like Nissa, but this Birds of Paradise tapping for any color mana is pretty tempting. So we'll take the bop here. One other interaction I wanted to talk about real quick was Tamiyo Completed Sage is definitely a combo, a wombo combo, if you will, with Black Lotus, because Tamiyo's down tick is -X and you put a permanent with mana value X or less onto the battlefield. And so since Black Lotus is 0, you can use a down tick for 0 and put your Black Lotus or a copy of your Black Lotus back on the battlefield. Here in this pack, Scalding Tarn for sure, as it fetches up our Ketria Triome. So basically having 2 Tri-lands, which is pretty awesome. Glen is interesting. Not super interested in Dig Through Time with double blue. I think blue is just a splash right now. All right, here's a Preordain, but ooh, there's one of my favorite cards in the cube, and that's Pest Infestation as well. So green really can take care of artifacts and enchantments, and in my opinion, Pest Infestation is even better than Rex Sage. So there's a Dismember, a Grim Monolith. There's another new card, Unlicensed Hearse, for some graveyard hate. I am a sucker for Dismember, but Grim Monolith is very tempting as well. Again, we're not trying to do the mono green ramp thing, as in we only have a single, mana dork right now in BOP. So Grim Monolith, pretty tempting. Now there is a Noble Hierarch, which does tap for blue. We didn't take the Ignoble Hierarch. So we can take Ignoble Hierarch here, as the Exalted and the tapping for blue is kind of puts it over the edge, I think. Not much else in this pack for us in our colors. Marsh Flats Bayou, those aren't really the fetch lands we're looking for. Again, not looking for Terastodon or Survival, so I guess the pick is between Burst Lightning or Piankiran Nalar, though the double red pips in Piankiran are a little difficult to cast, so let's pick up the Burst Lightning here. So right now we're just a very, very light blue splash, and we're just Gruul for sure. There's one of my other favorite cards. I haven't played with it a lot, the Reality Chip. I don't know if this is a Reality Chip deck, but I'm very tempted to play it. Right now we only have 6 creatures. This may not be the best pick. Like maybe I should pick up something like Eternal Witness, but kind of tempted to play this Reality Chip. It's so enticing to equip it to a creature and just play cards from the top of your library. What else do we have here? There's a Magda. Magda can help us cast spells because the tapping and creating a treasure is pretty good. But then there's also Chandra. Chandra is just one of the best planeswalkers in this cube, I think. So versatile. You can get card advantage with her uptick. You can downtick to remove problematic creatures. You can ramp with her other uptick. It's just awesome. Oh, wow. Nissa wheeled. So did Stomping Ground and a Braid. I want like all 3 of these cards, but Nissa is, again, also one of the strongest planeswalkers at ramping, creating creatures. Really, really excited with these 3 planeswalkers we have here. I guess we have 5 planeswalkers right now, but we got Tamiyo, Nissa, Chandra, and then 2 Garruk planeswalkers. And I'm liking this. This is like a teamer kind of spice deck coming together. Let's see. Spar's Headquarters, Forest Plains Island. I don't think we need that. Maybe just as a dual land. There's a Regrowth. Ooh, Copperline Gorge. Yeah, sorry, Kiki. We're going to take the mana fixing here. Especially after picking up that Chandra, we're going to want as much red fixing as we can get with to cast her with 2 red mana pips. Dismember coming around too is pretty nice. I don't think we're playing any of these cards, and probably not playing any of these either. Again, I'm not looking to ramp into Terastodon. Finale may make the deck though. That's a pretty sweet 15th pick. All right, pack 3. We're doing really well on playables. What do we got here? Kind of a miss for us. I mean, I would love Fractured Identity. Might be a little bit greedy for a 4th splash. Phyrexian Metamorph is castable. Ooh, I didn't even see it. There's a Ragavan. Yep. Ragavan Nimble Pilferer. Get in the deck. Man, more Tri-lands coming around. Another Verdant, which can fetch our Ketria Triome. A Finhorn Elves, maybe if we want to get maybe a little bit more ramp, and also a Miscalc. Now that we have some really great 4 and 5 mana planeswalkers, I'm a little more tempted to just get a touch more ramp, like potentially in this Finhorn Elves. The other option is the Walking Ballista. Walking Ballista can answer a lot of problems. Walking Ballista with a Nissa on the battlefield can get pretty big. So actually, let's take this Walking Ballista. It's a better creature overall. Yep, Mana Crypt for sure. This may not look like a Mana Crypt deck, but Mana Crypt's very strong regardless. The other option would be Waterlogged Grove, but I think you just got to take Mana Crypt. Ramp in the Vintage Cube is one of the most important things to get. And here's another one of my favorite cards in the cube, Zealous Conscripts. I really like that card. I also like the Wooded Foothills in here as well. A couple more Mana Dorks. See, that's why we didn't have to pick up that Mana Dork over the Walking Ballista. There's lots of Mana Dorks running around. But in this pack, we're going to pick up the Zealous Conscripts. I love this card. It can kind of just end the game on its own. Steam Vents, I think, for sure. with our blue splash. Fetchable as well by our Scalding Tarn. Ooh, here's a Fury. Definitely the best card in the pack for us, I think. Also a Cultivate, but Fury and a Gruul. I mean, there's a lot of great cards in here. I'm really liking these packs, but Fury is also really good. Its evoke ability to take out planeswalkers and a bunch of problematic creatures is just very, very valuable. Now there's Birthing Pod. I'm doing a quick look here. We're kind of shy on 2. Let's see, we have no 4 mana value creatures. So I don't think Birthing Pod's what we want. We'll just take the Thieving Skydiver there. Ooh, I'd love to play Grist, but we're going to take Gaia's Cradle. That's kind of the free ramp we're looking for. Just takes a land slot, don't have to put a bunch of mana dorks, and it's going to work really great. Our lands are looking pretty good for this, Gruul splash, this blueberry Gruul. If you watched one of the professor's latest videos, the Shuffle Up and Play, the one with Cedric Phillips and Patrick Sullivan. Carmen Handy's also in there, and I like the way Carmen Handy describes her dual lands and fetch lands and whatnot. So you should check that out just to see that. So yeah, I'm liking the way this blueberry Gruul deck is coming together. Let's see here. Not a lot for us. Trinket Mage maybe, because it can get both Black Lotus and Mana Crypt, but not for sure on that one. Oh yeah, we'll take a Fithorn Elves out of this pack. Don't know if it'll make the deck. Don't need a Goldspan Dragon, I don't think. And don't really need another dual land. Our lands are looking pretty good right now. So we'll take the Fithorn. We'll take the Elves. Waterlogged Groves is pretty sweet, though. That'll make the deck. I love drafting lands. Lands. Oh, there's another mana dork. Maybe we take the Glorybringer instead. Another double red mana, kind of hard to cast, but Glorybringer can be pretty decent. I don't know if we need another 5-drop. We're kind of heavy on 5-drops right now, if you see the curve, but I definitely don't need an Arbor Elf, as we actually aren't going to be running that many forests. We'll take an Abbot here as well, in case we need to. Wow, Questing Beast coming around. That may make the deck. And then Birthing Pod. Yeah, unfortunately, Birthing Pod's kind of weak in this cube, in Vintage Cube altogether. It's just a little slow. It's hard to put together. We may be able to run it here. We are a little light on 2-drops. All right, let's build this thing. Okay, here's the deck. Great mana, Black Lotus and Mana Crypt. Our mana and our ramp is just perfect, I think. And then we got this really sweet top end with some sweet planeswalkers like Tamiyo, Nisa, Chandra, and Garruk made it in there as well. So pretty excited. Let's take this Blueberry Gruul deck into the league and see if we can snag a trophy. So on to match 1. All right, welcome to match 1. We have our Blueberry Gruul deck, and this is definitely a keeper. 2 1-drops, 3 1-drops, really. Courser, guys, we can play all these cards, and let's lead out on Ragavan and see if our opponent can deal with it. I usually like to dash Ragavan, but I'm feeling spicy here. We can connect with Ragavan here on turn 2. That means we can get a turn 2 Courser of Kruphix down. Pretty sweet. Smarter play is probably to just have Bop, lead with Bop turn 1, but let's see if our opponent can deal with a Ragavan. Because if they can't, this thing's just going to snowball. All right, Temple Garden, Shocked. And Swords to Plowshares. All right, yeah. Probably should have let on Birds of Paradise, but it is what it is. Swords to Plowshares would have killed both Birds of Paradise or Ragavan. So we'll get our birds down here turn 2. This will allow us to play our Courser here turn 3 without playing a land drop. And then we can play a land off the top of our library if we need to. OP untaps. What do you got, OP? All right, opponent plays a Botanical Sanctum. And then passes the turn. All right, wonder if they're holding up counter magic or something, because they started to tap their Sanctum and then they untapped it. We don't really have any other plays right now, so I guess we just get this Courser down. The question is, do we play around Daze? And I think if you have the option to play around Daze, you always should play around Daze. I know this is less good, as in if we hit a land here off the top, we will not be able to play it. That's kind of bad. And we do. All right, we would have been able to play our forest, but maybe we played around Daze and just don't know it. I don't know. Gilded Drake for the opponent. So maybe that's what they were doing. They were considering stealing our Birds of Paradise or something. So now they steal their Courser and they kind of go off. They just played their own Celestial Colonnade. We know we're drawing a forest for turn. And we don't have any real way to deal with this 4-power Courser of Kruphix on our opponent's board now. Now, Gilded Drake does have flying, which is pretty nice. That'll allow us to get in the air for 3. And we will just have to play our land and pass the turn here, though. Raging Ravine on the top for our opponent again. They're probably going to get some more value here, potentially. No, okay, they play a Scalding Tarn from hand. That's kind of scary. I guess they have a 4-mana value spell. Okay, Ren and 6 comes down. Ah, they wanted the red mana. They wanted to get Ren down this turn. So that's why they didn't play their Raging Ravine. So I expect Ren will downtick and take care of the Birds of Paradise. No, they want the Scalding Tarn back in hand. Interesting. I don't know if I would have made that same decision. I wonder what they want to fetch out. It's usually always correct to take your opponent off mana. And Nisa was a sweet draw, especially when we have Gaia's Cradle in hand. Now, unfortunately, we don't have anything to do with the mana right now. But we'll play Nisa. And what we can do is we attack with both the Gilded Drake and the 3/3 land now. And maybe our opponent will block with the Courser and we'll build a Firebolt here post-combat. So that's the plan. So I'm going to attack both these creatures at Ren and 6 as it's going to incentivize our opponent to block the creature on the ground. Nisa already doing some work. All right. Yep. As expected, they are going to block as they protect the Ren and 6. But what I really want to what I really wanted to do is get this Courser off the battlefield. I'm not worried about the Ren. If they want to down tick and kill our Bop, that's fine. This Nisa has a lot of value and I don't need any more ramp right now. Crop rotation in response. Interesting. All right, they just put out a Tri-land, and now they have a Gargaroth on top, which if they play Gargaroth next turn, that is going to be a problem. All right, so they do downtick on our Bop. I'm fine with that as it gets their Ren off the battlefield. Now I expect Gargaroth to come down, though. Yep, it does. Now we have a problem because we cannot get through this 6/6 right now. It's going to start accruing a lot of value for our opponent. Let's see what we draw. Mana Crypt, not going to do it. Firebolt, not going to do it in the yard, though we need to remember we have that. So we'll play our land, and we'll turn it into a 3/3, but we do not have any attacks right now. Now, we can block, which is pretty nice. So we'll just leave our creatures back here to block the Gargaroth. Sword of Body and Mind. Oh man, main board. Our opponent main boards this, and they just so happen to have the fact that we have a blue Gilded Drake. Now, it's interesting to notice that our lands made by Nisa are colorless, so we will be able to block this Gargaroth, but I want to kill it, and unfortunately, we're going to need one more land. So I think I'm just going to take this hit from the Gargaroth, which feels super bad. 10 cards are going to go into the bin from the library. But I want to be able to get this Gargaroth off the battlefield. Okay, Scalding Tarn not going to do it either. 2 misses with our draw step here. So let's make another 3/3. And again, the plan is to just block, straight up block the Gargaroth. Sometimes opponents don't know that the lands created by Nisa are colorless. So if our opponent does attack with the Gargaroth, we will snap block. We have the option to flashback Firebolt right now on the Wolf token. And I kind of want to do that. Just something to do with the mana. Get a creature off our opponent's board. Now Nisa is at 8, which means she can downtick next turn on her ultimate, which makes our lands indestructible. And we get to put as many forests on the battlefield as we want. All right, opponent taps for Garruk. Interesting. Now, if they target a land, then they know, okay. So they basically just trade their Garruk for another clean attack with the Gargaroth. The problem here is the Gargaroth has trample, so even if we block with the lands, the trample damage is still going to get through, and we're still going to get hit by the Sword of Body and Mind. So we really need these 3 blockers to completely shut this Gargaroth down. So feels bad again. We're going to have to take another hit. Not looking good for the home team right now. We do have answers. I mean, Pest Invitation off the top would be a sweet draw, as we could deal with this Sword of Body in Mind and get some 1/1 pest tokens that give us life when they die. All right, so second hit from the Gargaroth and Sword complete. Yeah, I guess I should have remembered that Pest Infestation was already in our board. I don't know if we have an answer. Then Hex Drinker comes down. Yeah, I don't know if we have an answer to both Sword and now Hex Drinker. They also have the Celestial Colonnade, which can, just fly over our blockers. All right, Burst Lightning. Now, Burst Lightning can take care of the Hex Drinker. We can have enough blockers up now for the Gargaroth. So we'll take the Hexdrinker out and then just hope that we can triple block this Gargaroth. Kind of low on life right now. All right, so they activate Celestial Colonnade, and I guess I should have seen this. I think this is lethal on board. But even if we block, everything here, we'll still take the trample damage. All right, we need another flyer to block this Colonnade again. And I don't think we have it. All right, good game. On to round 2. All right, we're in game 2. We took out Questing Beast and put Acidic Slime in, as we can destroy the Sword of Body and Mind with the Ooze. So we're on the play, and whoo, look at this hand. Lotus, Ragavan, Fury. All right, so we're obviously keeping this, but the question is, how do we maximize our value? What do we want to do? We could Lotus out Courser, play land off the top of our library. Yeah, we'll play Courser. See, now here's a problem. If we play the land off the top of our library, we can't play Ragavan, but this will allow us to dash Ragavan and get make our draws a little more live. So I really like that play with the Lotus. It worked out. We're not completely dead on card advantage here. All right, Hexdrinker's gonna have to get fire bolted. The card is just very dangerous. That's one more turn not getting Ragavan on the battlefield, but I feel it's important to answer that Hexdrinker when you can. Again, that card can be very non-interactive once they level it up, so it's best to deal with it while you can. All right, opponent fetches out a mountain and gets a Wrenn and 6 on the battlefield. Wren's going to uptick, get the Scalding Tarn back in our opponent's hand. So if we dash Ragavan right now, we can take this Wrenn and 6 out. Other options just to play Tireless Tracker or to play Sylvan Library and Ragavan, but undash. But I think it's better to dash out this Ragavan, deal with our opponent's Wrenn and 6. We wouldn't just want to play Ragavan because Wrenn could downtick on the Ragavan. So this way we can get the Wrenn off the battlefield. Now, because Ragavan didn't deal damage to a player, we don't get the trigger with the treasure, unfortunately. Not incidental that we've gained 3 life off this Courser. I like it. All right, opponent plays Island and then just says go. I'm assuming they have a way to deal with a dashed Ragavan right now. So I think the right play would be to not play Ragavan. We're getting a little stuck on land, so it would be nice to get this Sylvan Library on the battlefield and draw some lands. All right, Sylvan Library does resolve. But now we'll just play Ragavan post-combat here as it maximizes our use of our mana. All right, opponent does have a play here at the end of our turn. A Braid. All right, that's fine. They want a Braid and Swords to Plowshares. Okay. Well, we know we're not drawing a land next turn. We're drawing Pest Infestation. So I guess our play is just going to be getting Tireless Tracker on the battlefield. Our opponent E-Wits 4 Swords again. Luckily, we do have an active Sylvan right now, so hopefully we can dig to a land. We can. All right, I kind of want to keep all these on the battlefield or in our hand. We have gained 5 extra life off that Courser plus the opponent's sword, so that was pretty nice. So let's keep both. We'll put the Waterlogged Grove on the battlefield. Now with 4 mana on the battlefield, we can play our Ballista for 2, which will allow us to take care of this Ewit and keep our Ballista. Now, hopefully we can get another land and get this Nissa on the battlefield, as that will allow us to put some additional pressure on our opponent with those 3/3 land creatures. Opponent searches up a Sparus Headquarters with their Scalding Tarn and then passes back to us. There's a Zealous Conscript, Forest, and Bop on top. I think we can just keep, I don't want to keep both again, but we probably don't need Bop right now, so we can probably just, or I'm sorry, we don't need Zealous Conscripts right now as our opponent doesn't have anything to steal. So we will keep Bop in our hand, play our land, and get Nissa on the battlefield. Now we can swing in for 4, and then post-combat we can play the Birds of Paradise. Okay, our opponent does have another play. Oh yeah, they have that Swords to the Plowshares again. Well, we'll remove the counter from Walking Ballista in response. Our opponent's down to 6 now, which means they're dead next turn to a Nissa activation in both lands. With Gargaroth. All right, Gargaroth comes down again. The fact that he can gain life is pretty good. Oh yeah, here's that Zealous Conscript. So this is what I'm talking about, how Zealous Conscripts can end games. You know, our opponent thinks they stabilize with the Gargaroth, and Conscript's just going to come down and steal that Gargaroth, and we can get in for 1 million, like 12 damage, I guess. More than that, probably 15 by using an untapped land off of Nissa to attack as well. So it's a decent swing. All right, Zealous Conscripts on the stack. All right, and opponent scoops it up. All right, on to game 3. Brought the Questing Beast in and took the Garrick out. And I also took the Walking Ballista out and brought in Escape to the Wilds. All right, our hand here on the draw is just too slow. 2 5-mana value spells with Tameo and Escape. I mean, love having all our lands, but I mean, we're playing Black Lotus, so we're going to mulligan, send this one to the cat, and hopefully get something better. Ooh, this one is not better either. Double mulligan. Down to 5. At least we are on the draw. This we will have to keep, as we have Ragavan and the Birds of Paradise. We can easily put the dragon back. And the question is, I think we just put the Hexdrinker back. We're not going to have a lot of free mana to deal with to put into it. And I'm really want to lean on this Birds of Paradise and Ragavan. All right, Celestial Colonnade for our opponent. Black Lotus off the top. This is awesome. This means we can play Chandra now, turn 1. Oh, super spicy. I love this. So we can play Chandra, and we can uptick Chandra to dash our Ragavan, and we'll be able to use the treasure token off of that to get the Birds of Paradise on the battlefield as well. This is a pretty sweet turn 1. All right, we exile Omnath. Not going to play it. I think I F6'd through the turn, unfortunately. Which means Birds of Paradise is a turn late now. And we uptick on Chandra with mana. I think a better move would have been to uptick for exile on cards, because what are we going to use this mana on? I guess I kind of want to see what we exile here with the Ragavan. As if we exile anything with 3 mana value, 4 mana value or less, we'll be able to play it. Showdown of the Scalds. Yeah. All right. So worked out. So now we can play our opponent's Showdown, which that's got to feel bad for the opponent. And we exile their Courser, Nissa, and 2 lands. So with Chandra's uptick ability, we will be able to play our opponent's Nissa next turn as well. Always feels good to play your opponent's Planeswalkers against them. Expressive Iteration. Very slow opponent. I mean, it's a great card, but I don't think it's super great in Vintage Cube. It's obviously great in Limited and Constructed, but in Vintage Cube, I think it's just too slow, to be honest with you. You'd rather have just something like Moxen or Chrome Mox, Mox Diamond, something like that. All right, we'll play our opponent's Forest, and then we can uptick on the Chandra again. Chandra now in ultimate range next turn. And we can untap the mountain and dash our Ragavan again. Our other option is just to attack with the mountain. We'll just attack for 3. We'll just play Ragavan post-combat. So put a counter on the land. Really, I'm just putting as many threats out for our opponents to try to deal with. I mean, we have 2 active Planeswalkers, a Showdown, and now 2 creatures with Ragavan and a mountain. Oh man, and our opponent scoops it up. Just too much value. That was awesome. Awesome match 1. Blueberry Gruul doing what we wanted to do. Let's go on to match 2. All right, welcome to match 2. Looks like we're on the play with our Blueberry Gruul deck, and ooh, we got to send that first one back. There's just way too slow. No 1 or 2 drops in the hand. This second one looks a little bit better. We at least have a Hexdrinker, so we can keep it. And plus we have the Noble Hierarch to ramp something out. And a Walking Ballista, which is a little flexible. So I think we need to actually put the Fury back here, as we have no other red cards. And we also do not have 2 red mana. So plan to put Fury back, Fury. Plan to put the red card back, and we're going to lead out on Hexdrinker, see if our opponent can deal with it. If our opponent can't deal with it, we're going to try to run away with some protection here. Swamp comes down for the opponent. And they cast a Blood Chief's Thirst. All right, so they do deal with the Hexdrinker. I think the Noble Hierarch or the Hexdrinker would have eaten that removal spell regardless. So we draw an island, we'll play it, we'll get the Hierarch down and pass the turn back. Looks like our opponent's on Rakdos and no plays on turn 2. All right, land off the top is sweet, as we can now Questing Beast or Tamiyo. Since there's no good targets for Tamiyo, we'll Questing Beast and get in there for 5 using the Exalted trigger off the Noble Hierarch. There's a 4-turn clock for you, opponent. All right, opponent vamps at the end of our turn. I'm assuming they're looking for an answer for this Questing Beast. So then whatever they got, untap, play a second Swamp, and then tap 3 mana for Murderous Rider. Okay, so yeah, they dealt with the Questing Beast. I'm assuming that's what they went and got. We draw a Firebolt for turn. So we could play Tamiyo again here, but I'm not sure. Again, there's no... We could downtick for the Hexdrinker. Let's just get the 2 pay for Walking Ballista with X equals 2. Get another creature on the battlefield, and then if our opponent plays something next turn, we can potentially draw land, play Tamiyo for her full casting cost, and uptick her then. Also, if we play Tamiyo for her full casting cost, we could just downtick for 4 and put the Questing Beast back on the battlefield, which may be good. So keeping our options open. Opponent plays their second red land, so up to 4 mana. And Murderous Rider is played from the Adventure Zone. All right, we untap. Okay, we draw Nissa. Can't play Nissa yet. We have no red mana for this Firebolt. So our only play right now is the Tamiyo. So I think we play Tamiyo on 4 using the Phyrexian mana. Super flexible casting cost. Love that card. And then we'll just uptick on the Tamiyo and tap the Murderous Rider if we need to. Additionally, I almost forgot, we have the Exalted trigger on the Walking Ballista, which means we can have a profitable attack on the 2/3 Murderous Rider. All right, but regardless, Tamiyo is going to come down here, and we're still going to plan to tap that Murderous Rider, as I do not want our opponent gaining life through its lifelink ability. Your turn, opponent. 5th land comes down. Knight's Whisper. All right, doing my job for me, taking damage. Not really the situation you want to draw. You want to play Knight's Whisper in. They're obviously looking for some sort of answer here. I think a red mana, a mountain is probably our best to draw, as it will allow us to play Nissa, put our counters on the mountain, attack for 5. And then we can either remove Walking Ballista counters or finish our opponent off with the Firebolt. All right, our opponent does not play anything. Glorybringer, not the best draw in the deck here. So we do have our attack again with Walking Ballista. And we actually have lethal with the Walking Ballista as long as it stays on the battlefield. What we can do is we can pump our Walking Ballista with our 4 open mana, making it a 3/3. And then attack. It'll get an Exalted trigger for 4 damage. Then we'll have counters on the Walking Ballista that we can remove to deal that last points of damage. Before I put the counters on, though, I want to attack, as if our opponent has a removal spell, which they do, I want them to use it. But what we have here, though, is I can still put a counter on the Ballista and then deal 3 points of damage. We don't really we have no other plays in our hand, so our real only option is to make this Ballista slightly larger and then remove all those counters. Hey, Chill here from the video editing room. Upon review, I noticed that I could have found a different line of play even with our opponent's Fire Blast and found lethal. Can you spot what that line of play was? If you can, let me know what it was in the comments and I'll give you a shout out in the next video. All right, back to the action. So we'll do that, and our opponent will still take 3. And they had to sacrifice 2 mountains for that Fire Blast alternate casting cost. So happy to see that. They're back down to 3 mana like we are. And because we have the Tamiyo on the battlefield, their Murderous Rider is not going to be untapping again with their lifelink. Now with Tamiyo at 5, we can reanimate this Questing Beast for those last points of damage. Magda, Brazen Borrower, great card, not going to do it. And Birds of Paradise, not necessary. So we'll down take on the Tamiyo for the Questing Beast. Love Tamiyo's ability here. And then the Questing Beast cannot be blocked by Magda because Magda only has 2 power. And we'll get in there for 5 damage. All right, opponent concedes that one. On to game 2. So during sideboarding, I took out the Firebolt and brought in the Incinerate just to better deal with 3 toughness creatures of our opponent. Took out Pest Infestation, added an Escape to the Wilds as I didn't see any artifacts from our opponent. And then lastly, took out the Glorybringer and brought in the Acidic Slime. All right, on the draw for this second game. And this hand is a mulligan. Send it to the cat again. And Mulligan's getting a lot of cards here. This second hand is keepable as we have Gaia's Cradle and Birds of Paradise. So I think we can just put back this island as we have our other blue mana. And we'll be able to get this bop down turn 1. Opponent leads out on Swamp and passes, which is nice to see. We'll play our Copperline Gorge and get the Birds of Paradise down. Unfortunately, we do not have a turn 2 play at this time. So maybe we'll draw something. All right, end of our turn. Opponent does Vampiric Tutor again. So the world is their oyster and what they want to get. They play their second land and pass the turn. We draw a Walking Ballista. That is at least a turn 2 play. We're only going to play it for 1 mana value, but it's better than nothing, I think. Puts another threat out on the battlefield. It's also another creature, so because we have Gaia's Cradle in hand, that means Gaia's Cradle is going to tap for 2 now, which means next turn we can play Nissa or Acidic Slime. All right, seeing as our opponent is playing Aurelia, I'm probably leaning towards playing the Acidic Slime just as a blocker. They exile a Horizon Canopy, which they cannot play because they played their 3rd mana this turn. We'll just take the 3 from Aurelia. Sylvan Library. So we'll just get the Gaia's Cradle on the battlefield. And again, we can get the Acidic Slime and keep them off of mana, which I think is the best course of action here. Plus the Acidic Slime Death Touch is going to be able to block this Aurelia. We'll get in there with the Walking Ballista as well. No more red mana for you, opponent. Yeah, that was a good choice by us because they played another Swamp, so they're probably stuck on red mana. So they play their 3rd Swamp, but they evoke a Shriekmaw, taking out our Acidic Slime. This is going to clear the way again for Lelia. Lelia is going to be a 4/4. I do think we will be able to get Nissa on the battlefield next turn. Okay, that's why you don't play your lands before you attack with Lelia, because they exiled a mountain and they couldn't play it. All right, we draw Steam Vents for turn, so we'll be able to get Nissa on the battlefield, and we'll be able to get this Sylvan Library down post-combat, I believe. That's at least the plan. We will uptick Nissa on our Gaia's Cradle, making another attacker, and allowing our Gaia's Cradle to tap for 3, which includes itself as a creature, so that's pretty broken. Before we play anything, though, we'll get in for attack since Nissa's ability gives these lands Vigilance, which is super broken. And I'm holding the Walking Ballista back just as a blocker against the Lelia, as I don't want to lose more life because we want to play this Sylvan Library and have life available to use its ability. 4th Swamp for our opponent, probably hurting on the colors over there. They didn't learn their lesson last time by not playing their land until they attack with Lelia. One of these days, OP will learn. Or as Merlin would say, never play your lands first. They go to the combat step, and I will snap block with this Walking Ballista. They exile a Thundermaw Hellkite, which they're nowhere near playing. And in response to damage, we will remove this counter on the Ballista to deal some more damage to our opponent. All right, second main, they do Swift End our Nissa. Unfortunate. Luckily, we still have our Gaia's Cradle out, tapping for 2 mana for itself. All right, Sylvan Library activates. What do we have on top here? A Zealous Conscripts and a Dismember. Well, there's that Zealous Conscripts again. Pretty good. So we can Zealous Conscripts the Lelia. Between Lelia attacking for 6 and Zealous Conscripts and Gaia's Cradle attacking for 6, that is 12 damage. So we can play our land, tap our Birds of Paradise. That's 5 mana. Cast the Zealous Conscripts, targeting Lelia, and then get in there for 12 with Conscripts, Lelia, and Gaia's Cradle. And that should do it for lethal. So we'll play our Steam Vents untapped. I guess we could have kept the Force instead of the Dismember and not have to play the Shock Land if we were lower on life. We can tap our Bop and our lands, get our Conscript down just like we planned it out. And I think our opponent sees the writing on the wall here. They do. That was a quick match 2, on to match 3 for the trophy. All right, welcome to game 3. This is the finals for the trophy. We are on the draw. This hand, I think it's a little slow. We do have a Hex Drinker. We could go all in on the Hex Drinker, but that's kind of all in, if you will. So I think this is a mulligan. We have some fast mana. We can do better. This is barely a keep. There's a Fury, which we can't cast for quite some time, but this Birds of Paradise, hopefully we can just leverage this. Oh, well, that was the awesome draw. Drawing a Sylvan Library was just fantastic. That's going to help get us out of this situation of just not a great hand. So as long as our opponent doesn't ramp into ridiculousness, we might be okay. And seeing Mishra's Workshop, I love having Pest Infestation in hand. Now we are unable to kill the Lodestone Golem because it will tax the Pest Infestation by 1. So we're going to have to wait one more turn to get this value out of Pest Infestation. But I am looking forward to the nom-noms from those little critters. Third land from our opponent, but they have quite the ramp. And then they Green Suns for 2, getting Raphelos, the good old Rafflecopter on the battlefield. We draw a Questing Beast. I do really want to get this Rafflecopter off and their other ramp, but we need a second red source, or we need another red creature to evoke this Fury, and we don't find any with this Sylvan Library. That is unfortunate. So we will be able to play Pest Infestation. Pest Infestation will be taxed by 1, so our only turn will be to kill the Lodestone Golem. But I think that's the best bet. The question is, what is our opponent going to put into play with this Raphelos and its 2 Force and the other mana dorks? We'll keep the Gaia's Cradle in our hand, though, pay the 4 life. And now we can get rid of the Lodestone Golem. And that's going to make our Gaia's Cradle really good because it's going to create 2 little pest critters, which will really turn on our Cradle. We just got to survive this one turn. Hopefully don't do anything crazy. I mean, Walking Ballista is going to be a great answer to all this as well next turn. All right, they play Caracas, which does literally nothing on this. I guess it saves the Raphelos. So there's that. We needed 1 turn, and what does our opponent do? Play a Battle Ball, a Mere Battle Sphere. All right, well, we got our work cut out for us in this game. Looks like our opponent is considering attacks and decides to hold back. We trigger our Sylvan Library again. We got a Courser, Land, and a Questing Beast. We do have enough mountains now, though, to play Fury, and I think that's going to be our lawn. So the question is, I don't know if we can really keep a lot of these cards. We need to save some of the life here, but we can probably keep 1. We can keep the Courser, but we can get the Gaia's Cradle down now, and that'll tap for 3, which means we have 7 mana available at this time. 7 mana. So we can play Questing Beast and Courser. We could play Walking Ballista on 2 and Courser, or we could just cast Fury and have no other plays. We do need some blockers. I'm wondering if it makes sense to play this Walking Ballista and the Courser. The Walking Ballista is not gonna be able to take anything out. No, let's just get this Fury on the battlefield. It represents the most damage. Plus we could double block the Mere Battle Sphere to get it off the battlefield. I'm not even gonna target the Raphelos because they can just tap their Caracas in response. So what we'll do is we'll make this Mere Battle Sphere a lot less dangerous by taking 3 mirrors off the battlefield and taking the Exalted Ignoble Hierarch off the battlefield. This leaves us with 2 mana. We can play Walking Ballista for 1. This is definitely a punt we misplayed. Played the Walking Ballista first, then cast Fury, targeted the Raphelos. Caracas would try to return Raphelos to their hand, and we could have and we could have removed a counter from Walking Ballista in response. So that was definitely a punt. Punt number 2. Had we been a little smarter, we could have gotten the Rafflecopter off the battlefield as well. Because how is Rafellos going to punish us this turn? Oh, let's count the ways. 5 mana, Acidic Slime. All right, that's not super bad. I mean, we can't really get much more use out of the Sylvan Library. All right, they're going to blow up the Gaia's Cradle, which makes sense. That's our biggest mana maker. I expect they're going to attack with the Mirror Battlesphere, and we will happily double block this thing with the Fury and a Pest token to gain some life. So opponent attacks and triggers the Mirror Battlesphere for 1. We'll double block as planned. We'll gain a life back and get the Battlesphere off the battlefield. A lot of battle words going on there. Now, Questing Beast does look pretty good on this board as all of our opponent's creatures only have 2 power. However, Questing Beast is a legendary creature. It means Karakas is ruining our day as well with Questing Beast. And definitely don't need Ragavan either, another legendary creature. So the only thing we can keep here is a Nissa. And we will be able to play Nissa by tapping our Birds of Paradise. So that will be the plan. If Nissa stays on the battlefield, we'll be making an additional blocker, plus we'll be doubling our green mana, which means we can really start pumping this Walking Ballista. All right, Nissa doing Nissa things. We can get spicy and attack with this mountain, and I'm fine if they want to if our opponent wants to trade with the Acidic Slime. And it looks like they do. They want to take us off of mana, but my mana tap for 2 each. At least the forests do. So I'm okay with that trade. All right, opponent untaps and taps the Workshop. And Rafellos. Man, this Rafellos is just punishing us. I mean, our opponent could play this without Rafellos as they have 6 mana, but they'd have to tap the Karakas as well. So they get a Wormcoil Engine on the battlefield, and we have just another threat to deal with here. The Mirror Battlesphere attacking us. I think we just take it, as I'd rather block something like a Wormcoil Engine. And let's see what we can get off the top of our library. All right, Forest, Reality Chip, Ragavan. Reality Chip seems a little slow. Questing Beast, I'm okay to trade Questing Beast here. And, you know, we still can't use Ragavan. So I'm okay to trade Questing Beast here for our opponent's Wormcoil, as I'd much rather deal with 3/3 Lifelink Death Touch Worm tokens than a 6/6 Death Touch Lifelink Wormcoil Engine. And with the power of Nissa, we are going to be able to both put a counter on our Walking Ballista and cast Questing Beast this turn. Oh, okay. So we are able to remove a counter and kill Rafellos. The reason I did that is because if they want to tap and save Rafellos, that means that their Karakas is not up for our Questing Beast. I don't know if our opponent forgot that they could return our Questing Beast to our hand. That probably would have been a good call by them, but they F6'd and lost their opportunity. Our opponent plays their own Gaia's Cradle. Tapping for 4. Our opponent's just being able to make mana pretty well this game, and it seems like they're just barely able to do that. Let's see what we're going to have to dodge now. Green 7 for 6. Our opponent does have no cards in hand now. What are they going to fetch up? Prime Time. Okay, well, that's pretty good. We'll be able to get some more lands, but I mean, our opponent's, you know, drawing off the top of their deck. They get a Rishon Import, which, again, with Nissa on the battlefield, I'm kind of okay with where we stand on our mana. Now, who are they attacking is the important part here. Looks like they're coming after us, putting us down to 2. Those little pest critters did a great job for us. All right, well, we can't keep any of these cards, and we don't need Ragavan because Ragavan does nothing with Karakas. So I guess we'll take the Garruk, and with the Garruk, we're going to be able to make a bunch of mana. We can just downtick for a 3/3, and we can get Courser on the battlefield. And we can also uptick to make a 3/3 land token. So, I mean, we're hanging in there, but our opponent is about ready to crash in with 2 worm tokens and a 6/6 trampling Prime Time. We'll put tokens on the mountain as I want my Force to survive to put more counters on Walking Ballista potentially. And we know we have the Reality Chip on the top of our library. Also a Ragavan after that. So, all right. So with Rishon Import though, our mountain blocker can be tapped. And this may be lethal with the trample on the Prime Time. And count it out, I think it is. All right. That was close. We almost hung in there. Just needed to deal with that Rafellos a little earlier. So on to game 2. All right, in game 2 here, during sideboarding, I took out Questing Beast and the Reality Chip, and I put in Garruk Relentless and Acidic Slime. We will play first, which is nice. Cannot keep this hand. Send this one to the cat. This hand's a keep, though, with Mana Crypt and all of our colors of mana for sure. What do we want to put back, though, is the question. I guess we put the Courser back, as I want to keep the removal. The Acidic Slime could deal with some problems. And Garruk's just going to help ramp us or make 3/3 tokens. So we'll lead off on the tap Catchery of Triumph and pass. And then next turn, we're planning on just playing Garruk. Opponent opens up Forest Llanowar Elves. Good turn 1 from the opponent. Okay, now that we drew a Tireless Tracker, we can get our Mana Crypt down, play Tireless Tracker, and then play a land afterwards to get our Clue token. So immediate value. And I want to hold this Dismember for a more valuable creature from our opponent, like Raphelos. Noble Hierarch may be worth it, I think, now. Little misplay here. Because I want to remove the Noble Hierarch, should have done it before the Exalted trigger result was put on the stack. But sometimes I'm a little quick clicking through the phases. All right, so Noble Hierarch down. Mana Crypt, we lose the flip down to 11. Ooh, but we have a red mana here, so that can take care of our opponent's Mana Dork. We're kind of hosing our opponent on mana right now. So let's get Garruk down. Garruk can let us untap our Triome, which means we can cast our Burst Lightning as well to get the Mana Dork off our opponent's board. So really hurting our opponent here on mana. Second Mana Dork, or third Mana Dork from our opponent. All right, hopefully we can win our flip. We lost the flip again. This time it was heads. Ooh, and we get a Tamiyo. We can cast Tamiyo for her completed cost, which is super cool. We could also use Garruk Uptick to cast Tamiyo for full cost. Which, it's probably just better to have more loyalty. Are the other options to downtick on Garruk and just cast Tamiyo for her completed cost? But let's put 5 loyalty on Tamiyo. And then we can uptick on our opponent's Arbor Elf, putting her to 6 loyalty, and get in there with our Tireless Tracker. 4th land from the opponent, and it looks like they pass. That's unfortunate for them. Maybe they're stuck with just, big green dorks in their hand. Copperline Gorge is our draw. Let's actually crack this clue here, see if we can draw something better. This will pump our Tireless Tracker and give us a fresh look. Nissa. All right, Nissa is definitely better. And because that was only our 3rd land, Copperline Gorge comes into play untapped, which means we can uptick our Garruk and get our Nissa on the battlefield and make a 3/3 attacker with Nissa's uptick. And then before damage, we can crack our clue with this land that's been untapped to pump our Tireless Tracker. That really worked out. That worked out insanely well. So we'll crack our clue here in response or before damage. That'll make our Tireless Tracker a 5/4. Ooh, Endurance from our opponent. They can jump in front of the Tireless Tracker, or they can just take out our Forest. And we draw a Sylvan Library off the clue, which is not a great draw, but it looks like they're just going to block our Forest and deal with that, which is fine. I mean, it's not great, but now we can just uptick on the Tamiyo again and tap the Endurance. So now our opponent just has a measly Arbor Elf to deal with 3 very strong Planeswalkers. Never forget that Garruk's downtick is an overrun ability, and that may help us close out this game. All right, opponent Green Suns for 5 this time. Getting their own Acidic Slime, killing our land. Okay, I think they're hoping that we just Mana Crypt ourselves out here. But I think they're missing that I have lethal on board. So we'll play a land and we'll make a clue. We can crack the clue. That'll pump our Tireless Tracker. We can uptick on Tamiyo, tapping their Acidic Slime. And we can also, give it overrun to our Tireless Tracker. We also could have plussed Nissa as well and had a 6/6 going in, a 6/6 land. So we had beyond lethal in there. All right, that was an awesome game too. All right, during sideboarding, I brought in Incinerate and took out Glorybringer. I just want more ways to deal with our opponent's mana dorks quickly. All right, here we are. Game 3 of the finals for the trophy with our Blueberry Gruul deck. This hand I think is a keep because we have all of our mana. We can fetch out our Triome. We are on the draw. We have interaction with Burst Lightning and Incinerate. And our opponent leads out Forest Go, so no mana dork from the opponent. So I want to lead off on a red source. That way I can play Burst Lightning on any turn 2 play our opponent may have. Yeah, Rafellos. Definitely don't want them untapping with that. Get out of here, Rafflecopter. All right, turn 2 for us. Same thing. I am going to hold this. Instead of playing a Ballista, I'm going to hold up Incinerate. Our opponent plays Sword of Body in Mind, which is pretty good against us. And a turn we'll fetch our Ketria Triome and we'll draw a Black Lotus. All right, so the world is our oyster again. We can get Tamiyo on the battlefield. What does putting Tamiyo on the battlefield do? Tapping the Sword of Body in Mind doesn't disable it, unfortunately. Let's see, we can get Garruk and Courser on the battlefield. We have a lot of options here. I think it starts with playing Garruk though. So Garruk will come down. We'll downtick for a beast token. What we'll do is we'll just leave Incinerate up because what I can do now is Incinerate in response to equipping a Sword of Body in Mind. Oh geez. Okay, so Kogla the Titan Ape comes down. It's going to fight up to 1 creature. And I'm okay with this because now I'm just going to Incinerate Kogla and Kogla is down for the count. Get out of here, Kogla. That wasn't even a 2-for-1 as the creature Kogla fought was just a token. I like that. Now what we can do is we can play Tamiyo and keep our opponent's mana crypt turned off. So we'll untap our lands with Garruk. We'll play Tamiyo. We will not use Phyrexian mana. We'll uptick on our opponent's mana crypt, keeping them at least restricted on mana. And we'll just play our island and say go. So we have 2 good planeswalkers. The problem is if our opponent equips the Sword of Body in Mind, neither of these planeswalkers is going to be able to deal with that creature. Karakas comes down for the opponent. Luckily we have no legendary creature and they have no place. That's awesome. All right, we get a Grim Monolith. So before we do anything, let's get our Course on the battlefield. All right, there's a land on top. Let's get that out of there. And there's Ragavan, not going to do well this game with a Karakas. We can keep our opponent's mana crypt tapped down here with Tamiyo. There's nothing in our... Well, there is a Black Lotus in our graveyard that we can put out on the battlefield. And maybe we do that next turn. We can have a pretty big Walking Ballista if we use all of our mana and use a Black Lotus from Tamiyo. Guys, Cradle tapping for no mana from our opponent. Love to see it. All right, but then Lodestone Golem comes down and is equipped with the Sword of Body in Mind. All right, how much mana do we have available next turn? We'll have, all right, no mana on top. So we have 3, 4, 5, 7 with a Garruk uptick, plus 3 with a Tamiyo downtick on Black Lotus, giving us 10 mana, plus our Grim Monolith. So that's 13. So we can make our Walking Ballista a 6/6. Remove the Lodestone Golem with 5 counters from the Ballista, and our Ballista will still survive. Sword of Body in Mind does not give protection from colorless, my friend. And we are super lucky that that Tamiyo downtick was here. I mean, I guess without the Tamiyo downtick, we'd have 10 mana with the Grim Monolith and just remove all the counters from our Walking Ballista, and then our Walking Ballista would die too. That'd probably be worth it, but now our Walking Ballista survives as well, and that's just awesome. Sure, our opponent's freaking out right now as to what we're spending 13 mana on, 12 mana. Learn how to count, chill. All right, 6/6 Walking Ballista. Here you go, opponent. And we didn't even have to pay the tax because Walking Ballista is an artifact. Love it. All right, we'll attack for 5. Opponent's down to 9. And we'll just play this Ragavan here as it'll at least tax them their Karakas if they want to get it off the battlefield. Opponent loses their flip. Now their mana crypt is causing some damage. And they cast a Myr Battlesphere with a Gaia's Cradle on board, which means they can equip the Sword of Body in Mind. Interesting. They put this Sword of Body Mind on a mirror token. I don't know why they would do that. I would think they would put it on the mirror battle sphere, to be honest. Maybe they just want like multiple blockers. We draw our Hex Drinker. See, but now with Tamiyo, because they put the Sword of Body Mind on just a measly mirror token, we can tap their mirror battle sphere. We can plus up on our Ballista to deal with another mirror token. We'll uptick on Garrick. And we can play a Hex Drinker and level it up 2 times. With Tamiyo keeping the mirror battle sphere locked down, I'm liking our position. I mean, I guess the opponent can move the Sword of Body Mind back to the mirror battle sphere, but it's not going to happen next turn. I mean, they can move it next turn, but it's still going to, the battle sphere is still going to be tapped. Now, we don't have any good attacks, not with that Sword of Body Mind on the mirror token. And we need to leave our Walking Ballista back because that's the only creature that can block the Sword of Body Mind. And that's one way this opponent could get back in the game. They lose their Mana Crypt trigger again. And I think that may do it because with this Firebolt on the top of our library, we can both cast and flash back using Garrick's uptick the Firebolt from our graveyard. And that will be 4 damage. We additionally have the Walking Ballista counters that we can remove as well. So we don't even need a flashback Firebolt. We can just cast Firebolt and remove our Walking Ballista counters. I'm trying to consider right now if I need to block this Mirror Battle Sphere or not. And I'm leaning towards not. I'm trying to save this Walking Ballista to just finish lethal next turn. So yeah, we're going to give our opponent a 2/2 Wolf. Yeah, 10 cards are going to go to the graveyard. But that's not going to change the course of this next turn, really. Our opponent's got infinite mana here with their Gaia's Cradle, which is super scary. Ooh, they cast Ugin. Maybe it was a mistake to let them hit us with the Sword of Body Mind because... no, it wasn't. Because I was like, this isn't our Fireball goes to the graveyard, but we can flash back our Fireball from the graveyard anyways. All right, Ugin's down ticks a bunch, but I don't think that's going to matter. As this Walking Ballista and the flashback Firebolt are going to be enough to win the game. So we'll flashback Firebolt. And then we'll remove a counter from Walking Ballista and GG. Yeah, all right, we did it. Blueberry Gruul takes the trophy. What a fun match, fun deck to play. Real kudos to Carmen Handy for her work on this vintage cube. Thanks for watching. Thanks for chilling with me here, and I'll see you next time.